So last week, we talked about the Green Bay Packers. The week before that, we broke down the Chicago Bears. And this week, this video, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions, which will conclude the series breakdown that I've been doing the last couple of weeks of the NFC North Division. I've had a lot of fun doing this, guys, and I appreciate the feedback. I've had a blast. Let's get right into it. There's so much to unpack here with the Detroit Lions, and I get it. If you're a Vikings fan like myself, you have little room to talk trash on this team. After all, our team, they had their own problems. They didn't even make the playoffs. So we get it. No big deal. With that said, the 2018 Detroit Lions were a hot-ass mess. And before I get into the nitty-gritty of things, let's start with the good stuff first. If not for Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, the Detroit Lions, they would have the best receiving duo in the entire NFC North Division. They really, really would. Marvin Jones, he's fantastic. And Kenny Golladay, what I really, really like about Kenny Golladay is once he gets the ball in his hands, good Lord, he may have the most perfect stride in the entire NFL. He doesn't just run with the football, bro. He gallops. He gallops like a freaking horse. It's really, really beautiful to see. And so much so to where game day of the Lions, whether it's Sunday afternoon, Sunday night football, Monday night, Thursday night football, game days for the Lions should be nicknamed Gallop Day. You're welcome, Lions fans. A gift from me to you. So I like what they have there with those two guys. They also brought in Danny Amendola as their third wideout. That's really cool. They also drafted TJ Hawkinson, the best tight end in the draft with, I believe, the number 8 pick in the draft. But they drafted him as well. And Matthew Stafford, he's never had a shortage of weapons to work with, and that will not change whatsoever moving into 2019. I thought their offensive line, despite TJ Lang having issues with injuries, despite Frank Ragnow having an up-and-down rookie season, I thought they still had a relatively okay league average offensive line. And in terms of Frank Ragnow, he had an up and down year, but he was a rookie. You got to think that he's going to get better. He played left guard last year. And after reports of him playing some center in OTAs, there's rumors that maybe they're going to move him permanently to the center position on the offensive line. We'll have to see how that all works out. So those are good things to look forward to in 2019. Here's where the problem was with the offensive attack of the Lions. And because of this main problem, it trickled down into two total problems. The main issue with the offensive attack of the Detroit Lions was the rushing game, the running game. They had the 10th worst rushing attack in the entire NFL, and they were really, at least to start the season, before they kind of got their heads on straight, they were really a pass-happy team. They didn't really have a balanced offensive attack. And what that does is it trickles down as a result where you put more pressure onto Matthew Stafford, and that's not a good thing. Matthew Stafford, I compare him to Kirk Cousins a lot. He's not going to beat you or lead the team to victory just with him alone. He needs the right resources around him, and he's a bit of a gunslinger. He can get a bit erratic at times. He can overthink, and he puts too much pressure on himself. You can really tell he really needs a good running game to work. And listen, I get it. Certainly as an NFL starting caliber quarterback, you should be able to make throws in tight windows. I felt like Matthew Stafford did that all the time. Like he was always trying to make those tight window passes all the time to where he got himself into trouble with turnovers. So if you have a good running game, a balanced offensive attack, a good running game to support him, that will take the pressure off of Stafford. And the problem was, even when they would run the ball, they featured the wrong running back, at least to start the season, with LeGarrette Blount. I like him. He's a bowling ball of a running back, short yardage, goal line. He's great. But having him as a feature running back is not really good. Kerryon Johnson, he should have been the guy as early as possible. And certainly they played him, but they didn't play him enough. It was really, really inconsistent how they utilized him. Now, when they played Carolina, he suffered a knee injury, and because of that, they shut him down. He missed the final 6 games of the season in 2018. So now he's clearly going to be the RB1, and they're kind of in a bit of a predicament, sort of similar to the Minnesota Vikings with Dalvin Cook. Can you stay healthy, Kerryon Johnson? That's a question that has yet to be answered. Well, it will be answered in the 2019 season. So you needed an insurance policy, and they addressed it. So they addressed the offense in two different ways to solve this problem. Number one, they brought in an insurance policy in CJ Anderson, who for his career averages 4.5 yards per carry. That's really, really good. And they still have Theo Riddick as a third down running back who can certainly catch passes out of the backfield. So that's number one. They brought in CJ Anderson. Number two, they fired after 4 seasons as the offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, and they replaced him with Darrell Bevell, former OC of the Seattle Seahawks, and before that of the Minnesota Vikings. So now he's going to call the plays, and you got to think that with that running back committee that they have, with Darrell Bevell, they're going to have a much more balanced offensive attack. Now we move to the defensive side of the ball, and this is where it just gets nuts. I think when healthy, they had a really, really good defensive line. And the problem was Ziggy Ansah, he couldn't stay healthy, and that really affected the defensive line as a whole. I thought their defensive line was really good when healthy. Now, Ziggy Ansah has since moved on to Seattle? Yeah, he moved on to Seattle, and they replaced him with Trey Flowers, former defensive end of the New England Patriots. And that's an upgrade, if for nothing else, durability. But even as a football player, I think he's a little bit better than Ziggy Ansah. So kudos to you, Detroit Lions. You did a hell of a job in bringing Trey Flowers in. They still got Snacks Harrison at the defensive tackle spot. And they lost Ricky Jean-Francois. And it looks like, based on what I'm seeing, he's still a free agent out there. I don't know if he's retiring or if he already retired or if he's still looking for a job. But he's not on the roster. He's still a free agent out there. But I think this defensive line, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be really, really good. Maybe even better than they were last year. The second level, oh my God, this is where Fitz just hit the shame. It was just terrible, dude. The second level, the linebackers, outside of Christian Jones and Devin Kennard. Devin Kennard, he was respectable. There were a little bit of holes in his games, but certainly Christian Jones. Outside of those two, the linebacking core of the Detroit Lions was just awful, just terrible to watch. They were oftentimes just out of position. They looked lost. They looked helpless at times. It was just pathetic. It seemed like for the most part, there was no buffer between the first level defensive line of the defense and the third level of the defense, the secondary. It was just the defensive line, the secondary, and nothing in between. It was really, really sad to see. So, and they addressed that by drafting, linebacker out of the University of Hawaii, their second pick in the draft, Jelani Tavai. So I don't know what the plan is for him. I'm assuming maybe he's going to start, but you need help right there in lieu with Christian Jones and Kennard. Then when you get to the secondary, they had a very good safety duo with Quandre Diggs and Glover Quinn. Glover Quinn, however, has since retired after 10 years in the league, and they drafted, I'm guessing this is his replacement, unless it's, well, according to ESPN on the depth chart, they've got Tracy Walker replacing him. But my guess is, based on the draft, their third draft pick in the third round was Will Harris, safety out of Boston College. So my guess is he's the replacement for Glover Quinn. I'm not too sure about that. But they had a very good safety duo last year, the Detroit Lions did. As for the cornerbacks, outside of Darius Slay, who's an absolute stud of a cornerback, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. We already know this. Outside of that, a lot left to be desired. The cornerback group was really, really shaky. Now, they've since brought in journeyman Rashaan Melvin. And the problem with this is, I get it. It seems like a patchwork address because Rashaan Melvin is a journeyman. This will be his fifth team in 7 seasons. So who's to say that all of a sudden he's going to get better? They also drafted in the 5th round. I hope that I'm saying this dude's name right. I like to make sure that I'm pronouncing guys' names right. If I don't say it right now, I promise I'll get better at this. Amani Aruwari, cornerback out of Penn State. He got drafted in the 5th round, so it's a little bit dicey right there. I'm not sure where they're going to place him at. Certainly, you got to think Rashawn Melvin. He's going to be the second cornerback next to Darius Slay. But if they're going to have Amani as a 4th dime package cornerback or maybe a slot corner, I have no idea what they're going to do with him. Now, if this was Mike Zimmer, if this was on the Minnesota Vikings, certainly with Mike Zimmer, he would definitely be in the rotation. I have no idea what their plans are for him. So you look at their draft: T.J. Hawkinson, Jelani Tavai, linebacker out of Hawaii; Will Harris, safety, Boston College; Austin Bryant, defensive end out of Clemson. So not sure if they're going to plan to start him opposite of Trey Flowers with Snacks Harrison in between. I have no idea. If not, if worst case scenario, he's depth, and you certainly can't have enough fresh legs on the defensive line. I think the defensive line is going to be really good for them. The linebacking core, that's the big question mark. Actually, the secondary, too. And Will Harris, let's give him a chance. Let's see how he works out. But certainly with the cornerbacks outside of Darius Slay and the linebackers, that's where the big problem is. That's where the big question mark is. And for Matt Patricia, as far as the big picture, the NFC North Division, I think the Detroit Lions, in all fairness, I'm not trying to pile on. I think you guys still are going to be the bottom barrel feeders in the NFC North. I think you're going to finish in 4th place. With that said, I think this season is going to really determine if Matt Patricia is going to continue to be your head coach moving forward in 2020. To me, he seems like a pompous ass. He walks around like his stuff doesn't stink. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are, all the Lions fans out there. If you think I'm missing something, whatever it is, or if you think your team is going to do a lot better than what I'm projecting, certainly I got you guys in the 4th spot in the NFC North. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I really do appreciate it. We do this 3 times a week, and I really need to get better at podcasting and providing you guys the right information. So for all the new followers out there, I do a podcast 3 times a week. Once a week on this channel. This is my personal YouTube channel. But then also twice a week on Score North, formerly 1500 ESPN. You can find their channel, Score North. That's SKOR North, their YouTube channel. You can find it there. I also do an extended audio podcast talking main topics in the NFL and NBA if you're interested in that. I don't do video podcasts for that. I do the extended audio podcast. You can find the link to the description, or you can find the link to the extended audio channel on SoundCloud in the description of this video. We do this 3 times a week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast. You can check me out on Twitter at realistic_Randy. Facebook at Realistic Randy. You can also check me out on Score North, their YouTube channel. You can subscribe to this channel. You don't have to be a Vikings fan. If you're not a Vikings fan, that's okay. I like to think that I'm objective about this thing. That's why I call myself Realistic Randy. So let me know what you guys think, and we will see you next week.